Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of The Democratic View, and I am the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and today I have a man with us who many of us have had some encounter with over the years. He is one of our assessors, and his name is Eugene DePasquale.
How are you, Phyllis?
I'm good, and I want to know a little bit about you, because I really don't. I'd like to know, first of all, where are you born and raised? That's always my first question.
I was born in Glen Cove, and I was raised in East Williston.
Oh, so you're a Long Island guy.
But my family came out to Montauk when I was in the 3rd grade because of surfing. My brothers took up the sport of surfing, and my dad was a lifeguard at Jones Beach, and he surfed. So where was the best surfing? Out here, so everybody came out here.
Your father was a lifeguard at Jones Beach? I probably saw him a million times. I used to go there as a kid.
West End, too.
Oh, gosh.
I believe that was. I don't know. I was pretty young back then.
Yeah. So you've been out here in Montauk for a very long time.
Real long time, yeah.
And where did you go to college?
Columbia University. Columbia College in Columbia University.
Majoring in?
English, of all things.
English. You know what they say about the road to hell is paved with English majors?
I had never heard that before, but why not?
That's what they say. I'm trying to think of who it was that said it, but I can't right now. But anyway, so what did you do with your life after you graduated with that English degree?
Quite a few things, but I wound up in Manhattan after time working for a real estate company, doing commercial office leasing and commercial office renovation, commercial office space renovation. It's a very interesting time of my life. But I really liked Montauk, so I came back to Montauk. But while I was in Manhattan, I went to NYU, and I picked up a diploma in construction management and another one in real estate finance and analysis.
Wow.
Right.
That's a lot of degrees you got there, buddy.
A lot of paper hanging on the walls.
I know, I got them too.
Right.
But I'm in education, so that's why, in education you always got to have a lot of degrees. So, in other words, you really developed a background in the building.
Yep, when I came out to Montauk, I began working as a carpenter, as a carpenter's helper. And you learn the process from ground up of how houses are built and what it takes to, or what goes into building them. And after doing that for a while, I wound up working in Manhattan in the film industry for about 10 years.
Really?
My carpentry and construction skills paid off there. I met a friend of mine, a guy I developed a friendship with. He's like, hey, you feel like doing something different? I'm like, yeah, why not? He goes,
why'd you make sets?
Yeah, right? So I worked on film sets, the feature-length film sets in Manhattan for about 10 years. It was phenomenal. I worked on some really interesting projects.
Yeah, well, I know about that business, having been around it all of my life.
Okay.
And made 2 films myself, as a matter of fact. But
I didn't know that.
Not in sets, mostly in assisting my family.
Right. No, I worked on things like Shawshank Redemption.
Did you really?
Actually, I was in it.
Really?
I had a speaking part in Shawshank Redemption.
I'm going to go rent it. I happen to love that movie. It's a great movie.
It was very interesting to work on, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, see, now that we didn't know anything about you as being like doing that kind of thing.
Little known secret. And then actually Jeannie Nielsen approached me, and she goes, hey, would you be interested in running for an office out here in East Hampton? I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready to transition. And I ran against Kim Davis, and I lost my first election. And then Kim decided not to run, so I ran again, and that election I won, and I've been in office ever since. I'm in my 12th year.
Oh, wow. me, what exactly do you do? What do you do?
What does an assessor do?
What does an assessor do?
We assess property values for the purpose of real estate taxation. Real estate tax bills, you look at it and you go, this is how much you pay. This is how much I got to pay. But to get to that figure, you have a tax rate, which is established by the town board, and an assessed value. And your assessed value is a multiplier against the tax rate, and there's your tax bill.
Now, as a matter of fact, Eugene, I don't know if you'll remember this, but years ago, I had my house assessed privately. And it
Assessed
came
or
in-
appraised?
Appraised.
Right.
Appraised. And it came in way up here, and you know, it came way down here, and you guys were charging me way up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I went into you and said to you, hey, look, this is what I have, and look what you're charging. And you helped me to fill out the form. Do you remember that?
I help a lot of people do that.
Yeah,
And a
but-
lot of people go, well, why is that? Well, the town of East Hampton has never been through a municipal-wide reassessment. So some people have assessments that were established a long time ago, and they don't reflect the market conditions of today. So since the reassessments never happened, there's these pockets of inequality, as you found out.
Yes.
And there are mechanisms in place for people to have their assessments reviewed and hopefully lowered into what makes more sense for the market values. It's called the grievance process. And it's a relatively easy process, as you found out. You fill out the paperwork. It's not.
Yes.
It's kind of archaic.
You and I did it on the phone.
Right.
You don't remember me, but I remember you. As I said, oh,
I hope I was friendly.
oh, God, if this guy didn't help me. And it did indeed lower my taxes because I did do that reassessment, I guess. So, so if you're doing this all the time, does it ever come to the point where you would like to see a reassessment done? The town doing something like that?
I would love it.
Really?
It would be, for the first year or two, it would be very complicated because a reassessment has to happen within a specific time period. It can't just drag out
Right.
because the markets can change.
Right.
So we as the assessors wouldn't do it. There are outside companies that, once you make a request for proposal, they come in and say, you know, we could do it for this much. And there's not that many companies that do it. But once you accept, once a company comes in and actually says, yeah, we've been hired, then they bring in their field staff, they data collect the entire town, and then they figure out what the values are, much like Southampton did. And then there's a review process at the end of the reassessment, and everybody gets a chance to see, okay, whether they feel it's correct or not. And it's kind of like a grievance process all over again. You come in, you go, yep, I think it's too high. Nobody's ever going to say it's too low. But once the reassessment's done, theoretically, everybody should have a level playing field. And that would be wonderful, because then it takes a lot of the guesswork out of, what does my tax bill mean? It says I'm assessed for this much. So if you're assessed at $500,000 and your house is worth $500,000, you're like, okay, that makes sense.
So why don't we do it?
You'd have to.
Political will?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's not up to the assessors. If it were, it would have been done a long time ago, because there's expenses involved. It's not free. It costs a lot of money to have it done. So the town board would have to say, okay, we're going to do it, but it's adding more to your tax bill.
But if there are people who are south of the highway and not paying their fair share,
Yeah.
then there would be a lot more money rolling into the town.
It's not so much about earning more money. It's kind of like there's a dinner bill. And that's what the total town warrant is. There's a dinner bill for the town, and what it's going to cost to run the town for the coming year. And that's when they do, we go in and talk about budgets and what we're going to need for the following year. And once all the departments come in and the budgets are finalized, well, there's that big chunk of money that's got to be found.
Yeah.
And it's predominantly through real estate taxes. So it's not that you earn more money, it's just that the burden is shifted. And my favorite analogy is there's a big dinner table. On one side of the table, there are people eating hamburger, but they're paying for filet. On the other side of the table, there's people eating filet, but they're paying for hamburger. And on people at either end of the table, they're eating filet and they're paying for filet. Eating hamburger, paying for hamburger. The only thing a reassessment does, it goes, the waiter comes along and goes, oh, excuse me, and they flip-flop the bills. That's about as simple as it,
That's a wonderful analogy. I think you make it very clear.
So you're not adding more to the dinner bill. It's just everybody's paying for what they're supposed to be paying for. That's a reassessment. It's as simple as an explanation as I can come with. It's a little bit more complicated in terms of establishing tax rates and figuring out, south of the highway as opposed to Springs.
Right.
Or, you pick the areas.
Yes.
But it would be, it would make it so much more transparent.
Well, I know Southampton does it all the time.
Yeah, they're pretty good at keeping up with their, it's a cyclical.
Yes, I know, because I own a house in Hampton Bays.
Okay, so how many times are you reassessed? They don't do it every year. I don't think it's every other year.
No, they don't do it every year, but they do it, I think it's every couple of years that they do it. That you get either, sometimes you're up a few dollars and sometimes you're down a few dollars, but they do it. They do it on a regular basis, and I don't understand, I can't understand, how come Southampton can do it and East Hampton can't?
Because a supervisor quite a few years back decided it was the right thing to do. I think it was Skip Heaney?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know how well that worked out for him, but it's like you said, political will. It's not a popular choice for town boards to make.
Well,
because not a lot of people understand. They think it's just going to raise their taxes. It's time for something like this to come, but is it going to happen? I don't know. It's like I said, it's not for me to decide.
no, of course, I know it's not for you to decide. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about because we have this discussion every so often about things like, when the CPF people come in and buy a large tract of land that now will not be developed. Some people say, well, you could be building houses and putting, getting tax revenues from that. But then other people say, yeah, but in the meantime, keeping it open and nothing, it's not costing you anything either. So in a way, it balances it out.
I guess it's, what do you want? You want open space or do you want a bunch of houses?
Are you asking me? I want open space.
Oh, there you go.
I know what I want.
Right. I mean, as certain parcels are taken off the roll, yeah, they're not going to generate income, but it's.
They don't cost you either, though.
Yeah, they don't cost much.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nice to have wide open vistas. I like them.
Well, I know that I always quote Tim Bishop, who I've interviewed many times, who, says, the economy is the environment is the economy, and no one's going to want to come here unless we have pristine beaches, clean water, and vistas of open space. And that's true. I mean, those vistas, they take your breath away when you
they sure do.
You come out here and you
our
look.
beaches are just downright beautiful.
Oh, my God. You're talking to a swimmer.
Yeah, right? Talking to a surfer.
I mean, God, I didn't swim this morning only because the weather was so funky, but otherwise I swim every morning.
Good for you.
I swim every afternoon, and I actually swam 2 days before Sandy. And
Did you really?
Yeah, and people said to me, oh, is the water still warm? And I'd say, no, it's freezing cold. I just can't give it up. I love it so much.
Do you wear a wetsuit?
No.
Wow.
No, I swim in cold water. I swim from almost the end of April through to October. Well, I mean, I don't do a lot, I mean, it shrinks in the beginning and then it slowly expands and then it shrinks again towards the end, I count my strokes, so I always know how much I'm doing. So you're running again because I guess you believe that you'll do a good job.
Yeah, I think I do a good job.
Good.
And there's a certain amount, it's good to have continuity in this particular position. It takes a long time to get your feet underneath you, to learn the theory and the administration behind assessing. and to develop the contacts or relationships with not only people in my office, people in the other offices throughout the town, but attorneys, appraisers. There's a lot that goes on. But just the knowledge base, what I take for granted that I know now, it's, you just get talking about stuff and people are ask you questions about this, ask questions about that, and sometimes you can get tripped up a little bit. It's like, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know everything about being an assessor, that's for sure. But I got 12 years of experience, education, training, knowledge, and just the day in, day out of getting the job done. And I like my job. There's a lot to it. There's the technical aspects. It sounds funny, but there's the intellectual part of it. You have to think about what you're doing. And it takes, and you have to be very careful, and you have to be able to help people. And it's, a good day is when you've helped somebody. I like that.
Well, I know you
like
helped
when you
me.
called up.
That's right. You certainly helped me when I was trying to get a more just tax
Right.
rate.
Well, I said earlier, it's kind of archaic. I mean, it's just the grievance applications. It's 4 pages long.
Yeah.
And for the most part, you know your name, you know where you live, you know your phone number, you know your address, but then you start getting into your Suffolk County tax map number. Which school district do I live in? Well, what's this total assessed value and land assessed value? And then it's like, well, wait a minute, I got to use what's an RAR? What's an equalization rate? How does all this stuff?
I know.
And for me, this is just, and the other 2 assessors and my staff, which is just phenomenal. Staff, couldn't do it without you. You guys are great. Seriously. They allow us to get our job done as assessors. But what we take for granted and what we do on a day-to-day basis, even attorneys call up and they're like, what do I do here? And it's like, no problem here. A couple minutes will get you all sorted out. And it really, I mean, for a lot of people, it causes anxiety. And it's a good day when you can say, don't worry about it. It's not as bad as you think. Let me help you. And that's, like I said, that's a good day.
Well, that's great. That's great. So it's a job that's very involving.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a full-time job.
Do you have to ever go out into the field and look
Oh,
at
absolutely.
things? Oh, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a great field staff. Our office has 2 staffs, kind of. The administrative staff, they're there every day.
Yes.
And then there's a field
One
staff.
of them lives on my street.
There you go. Okay. And our field staff goes out and measures permit work, whether it's a new house or additions. Sometimes it's demolition. Could be something as simple as a garage or a pool or
Shed.
shed.
I had to do that for a shed.
The sheds. And we go out in the field as well. I was out in the field, I think I was out in the field Monday just measuring. I had to measure a house. We didn't have data. It was a very old house. I think it was a Carl Fisher house. And it just wasn't measured. We didn't have an accurate square footage on this one, so I went out and measured it, and I enjoy doing that. So there's outdoor work, there's indoor work, there's computer work, there's phone work, there's dealing with the public over the counter, or sometimes at the post office or standing in line in the supermarket. Hey, can I ask you a question? Sure, go ahead. I might not be able to answer it right now because I'm not sitting in my office at my computer with all my information in front of you. Sure, shoot, let's see what we can do.
I have to go back to, how do you measure a house?
With a tape measure.
Really?
Yeah, you walk around the house with a tape measure and you just measure we only measure houses from the outside. We never go into houses.
Oh, really?
Well, that just keeps it homogeneous. It keeps it uniform. If every house is measured from the outside rather than from the inside, then you say, well, this is how big your house is.
So in other words, you're not really measuring the bedrooms or the living room or anything like that. You're just measuring the actual, how much space this house, this structure takes up on the piece of property. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's all, you have to, when you take office as an assessor, you got to go to data collection school. Really? They have all these courses. Yeah, it's really interesting. How to measure a house. And what different houses look like. That's where some of my construction experience came in. It's like, well, what are you looking at? And it's like I say, it's just one of the reasons I like my job. I get to go outdoors. I get to meet homeowners. They get to ask me questions. And like, well, what happens if I do this? Or what about that? And for the most part, it's I leave people at least understanding the process and what we're doing. And I like to say, people can come into my office and sometimes they're not too happy. I go, listen, come on into my office. Let me explain how it works. When I'm done, you might not like what you hear, but at least you're going to understand it. And that's the important part, is getting people to the point where they understand the process and how it affects them. It's not always it's just technical information, and this is how it relates to you. And like I say, some people they're not thrilled with what they hear, but as long as they understand it, then I've done my job.
You have to really have a lot of people skills then to do what you do.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so. It's tough. I mean, people come into the office and some people are really upset. And you have to be patient and understand that they're upset because they can't figure out why it is the way it is. And you really say, let me hear what you have to say, and let's see if we can explain things to your satisfaction. And almost all the time they'll be like, oh, I didn't quite get it. Thank you very much.
And when you are finished with your job, is it surfing that you do to relax?
Not so much this year. I like photography. I enjoy surfing. I got a road bike recently. I enjoy cycling. And there's a lot going on out here. There's always something to do.
Are you kidding? There are like tomorrow. I'm working author's night, and there's the fisherman fair, and there's something else going on, and it's like,
right.
I can't beat all these things.
Yeah, and where did summer go?
Oh, I know.
Where is it?
I know.
All of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, wasn't it just July 4th?
And that's one of the reasons why I make sure I get my swims in every day, because I know that I have woken up December the 3rd, and I have said, should have got that swim in that day when I didn't, because you can't miss them. You can't miss them, because if you miss them, it's gone forever.
The fall's coming. It's the best time of year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah, of course I know why. Of course I know why. Yeah, but you know what? The truth of the matter is, I always think of fall as a sham, because it starts out, you really think it's great. Oh boy, the air, the colors of the trees and stuff. And then it's winter.
All of a sudden it's winter. No more swimming. Then you got to go to Gurney's.
Well, I do. I go all the time. I mean, as I have to swim. I love my swimming. It's my...
I get that.
I don't know. So I sometimes think I'm going to write a piece about swimming and what it does to my brain, because there's something about being in water that's unbelievable.
I went and got licensed, or whatever it is, for scuba. I got certified as a scuba diver. And in the shop, there was this little thin book, and the title of the book was All Good Things Love Water. And the book was pretty interesting, but I thought the title was the best part of the book, All Good Things Love Water.
All good things love, well, I must be one of those good things, because I absolutely love water. Have since I was a child. I mean, some people love water, some people don't. I love it. And Gardeners Bay, where I can be at my shoulders, see my feet.
Yep.
Come on. You don't get that a lot of places.
No.
That's really quite extraordinary.
Oh, it's like,
so how do you like campaigning? Or have you done a lot of campaigning?
I love to campaign. I really enjoy it. And throughout the years, in every campaign, there's really not much point beginning serious campaigning during the summer.
Yeah, I know.
Wait till nobody wants to see you standing in front of the post office in August. It's like, yeah, whatever, go away. September, October, and then all of a sudden it's November. Talk about the summer disappearing when you're campaigning, and campaigning's a real process. I mean, there's a lot to do. There's campaigning in the morning, there's campaigning in the afternoon, there's campaigning on the weekends, and then there's events, and then there's groups that you want to go and speak to, and everybody has questions, and what do you think, what's going to happen about this, and what are you going to do about that, and it's a real good opportunity to get to know what's happening.
Well, I tell you, we're doing these listen-ins, and I saw you at the Montauk one, and
that was great.
It was phenomenal, and the one in Springs also was wonderful too.
The one in I was impressed by the quality of the questions. I mean, people really thought very carefully about what they were going to do. And you know what I liked even better? they were just like, this is my question, and I'll wait for your answer. They didn't just keep going on and on. They were real, like, they were very concise and right to the point, and their questions were great.
What I also liked was I liked the way the candidates really listened.
Yeah.
That they really paid attention to what the people were talking and didn't necessarily come up with a solution to the problem right at that moment, but they took note of the problem.
Well, yeah, well, some of those questions, there was no way you could have answered them
No.
shooting from the hip.
Well, I mean, they're it's complex.
But the
issues.
listening, I mean, it was perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you want? And some people, you know, like, maybe somebody's going to have the magic bullet. Who knows?
Yeah. There were almost 100 people at that. That was really an amazing.
I know, I didn't get a chance to finish it. I had to leave early.
I know you had a call from
Yeah, EMS call.
an EMS. You also do that.
Yeah, I'm an EMT in Montauk.
Ah. So you live in Montauk.
I do.
You know, when I first came out here, I saw houses all over the place. I had like 4 days out here. The house I bought was like the third house I ever saw.
Uh-huh.
But after I closed on it, I went out to Montauk because my then husband wanted to see the golf course.
Uh-huh.
And I went out to Montauk. I looked at Montauk and I said, oh my God, why didn't I buy out here? I mean, it was just so incredible.
You know, people ask me, they go, where do you live? And I go, I live in one of God's palms. You might live in the other one, but I live in this one.
You know, if you call me on my phone, it says I'm in paradise.
There you go. I like that.
And I really feel that way. Listen, I had to quit working. I was making big bucks. But I had to quit work just so I could be out here in gorgeous East Hampton. I love it. I absolutely
You know, I
love
get a
it.
kick out of people going, you're so lucky that you live out here. I said, it had nothing to do with luck. I chose to live out here.
You bet. I worked to live
Right.
out here. Absolutely. Well, Eugene, I wish you lots of luck.
Thank you so much.
And it was a pleasure to talk to you and get to know you. And I'm looking forward to your reelection, which I'm sure is going to happen.
So am I.
November 4th, right?
Election day.
Yes, indeed.
Please, just come out and vote.
Yes,
you have to do that. That's the most important
Yes,
thing.
it's getting people out to vote is the
That's
key
huge.
thing. Yeah, well, I work on that one too.
Great. Thank you so much. This
Thank
was
you for
wonderful.
coming.